Hey everybody, welcome to the Agency Access Hangout. We're so excited to have you. We have an amazing group of people, creatives today that's here. We're going to talk about vision. And the reason why we have these people here is it's a great spectrum of experts on vision. They're going to talk to you. It's your peers, it's the people that used to hire you, it's people that are going to represent you, and it's the people that are actually going to help you find your vision. So that's why we have this amazing group. And the reason why we're talking about vision is without vision, it used to be this esoteric concept, oh, somebody has vision, but really what did it mean? And we've been really able to define what it is and why it's so important. And so this is why we brought these amazing people together to talk to you about this topic. We have Shannon McMillan. She's here with us today from Homestead Creatives. She was, she has a background in photography. She was a former art producer from GSD&M. And, coming from that background, it's so important that she's here today because not only was she hiring you, but now she's representing photographers, and she's representing them based on their vision, and she has to be able to sell it. Jennifer comes to us. She was a former photo editor. She has a background in photography. She's worked for the Sci-Fi Channel. And now she is a creative consultant for Agency Access, and she's probably the best editor I know in this industry, so I'm very honored to have her. And then we have LoMurray and David Sullivan, and these two wonderful creatives not only are cinematographers but also photographers, and have worked very hard to not only own their vision, but evolve their vision. And I think having you guys on here today is really important to talk about that as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And, if you guys are ready, let's get started. You guys good?
We're right.
Okay, so I have a list of questions, and I'm going to read them because I can't remember everything. But I'm going to divvy out who the questions go to, and sometimes it's going to be for everybody. So here we go. So this is for everyone to start with. And the first question is, what does vision mean to you? And let's start with Jennifer Kilberg.
All right. So vision for me has definitely evolved in different ways. I think the more the market has gotten saturated, the more vehicles that we're getting communicated on, like all the different platforms from all the social media applications to websites to billboards to everything all around us, vision has become stronger and stronger. And what it means to me really is that if I close my eyes and I think about who you are as a photographer, cinematographer, director, illustrator, even brand, I need to be able to describe those brand attributes right away. And so when you have a strong vision and a vision that is communicated and remembered, it has strong brand attributes so I can identify and know what makes you you. And to me, that's really what vision's about, is something where you have your own ideas, your own influences, and your own adjectives and brand attributes that describe you.
Great. LJ, David, what about you guys?
When I first saw this, I feel like just having a clear vision and clear conception of who we are as a company, however, not being too rigid, so that as this landscape changes, and just even speaking to Jennifer over the last few months, has cleared that vision up, but also has allowed me to be flexible. We've come from a lot of aspects, from cinematography and photography, but as starting a business together and finding our vision together and honing that down has really helped with Jennifer. We've honed that down and not been too rigid. When we first walked in, we kind of had a rigid, and now we've opened up and found a vision through working with Jennifer.
And the reason why I chose you guys in order and in this specific direction is because it's really about the consultant helping people to find it, and Jennifer can tangibly kind of look for it and dig it out, and it's the creatives trying to excavate it. But really, now we're going to talk to Shannon, because Shannon, you've hired and you now sell based on vision. So let's hear what your interpretation of vision is based on what they've said.
Well, it's pretty, a lot what Jennifer said is very true. There's many other factors that are involved, not only, your brand standing out, because back in the day, it was just, just the look and feel of the work, but now it's, doing all these portfolio reviews, it's about your brand, and very much what Jennifer was saying, but also what draws me to a particular style, that everyone does have a style, and that's what, I'll back up just real quick. On our roster, there's a vision because everyone has their own distinct style. There's no crossover. Everyone can stand on their own, and you can really recognize, oh, that's Cody's work, or, you know, so on and so forth. But also within that vision, the photographer also has to know, is the styling good? Is the wardrobe good? You know, there's many other factors within the vision that is really important, because I've seen some, you know, some good work, but it's like, oh, your talent's off. Or, you know, you need to have that eye to work with a casting director or your stylist where you guys can work as a team, because it's a collective vision, and being able to work together is, you know, another big key factor on having your vision, because clients are going to look at that, and those are their products in those shots. So you need to be able to know how to, you know, accentuate their brand, because they're hiring you to, you know, to advertise their brand. So you guys need to do it at the same time.
Well, let's move on to the next question I really have for you, which is, you know, what's the most important thing you look for now when looking for talent to add to your roster? Because before you were looking to hire people for a client, now you're looking to represent these people. Like, what's that thing?
Well, I think it's kind of a life thing for me, is being a well-rounded person. Because when I was hiring the photographer, the illustrator, whomever, you still needed to all get along. So that's why it was important to do creative. We know that, you know, one of the big things was to do creative calls, because you want to get a feeling for who that person is. You know, can they bring something to the table besides what, you know, the agency's bringing? And you get a feel for their personality. I've been on calls where we're like, yes, we want to hire these people, and then we get on the call and we're like, well, they're kind of snotty. So, you know, it's important. So when putting my roster together, you know, that was another big factor. You know, the reason why we're called Homestead is because we want to be seen as a family. We're all from Austin. We want to be able to sit around a big table and have open discussions and go out to lunch, and just being very well-rounded and having a good personality and a good outlook. Because that's important, because you're going to have clients, and you want to make sure the photographer and the client get along, because you want to develop a long-lasting relationship.
I don't know if anybody's been listening to this. The word you're dropping, you're talking about your brand and your vision of Homestead. So every company, regardless if you're a creative, an artist, an ad agency, everybody has a vision and a brand, and it's not only the visual approach, but it's the words and the things that are emulated from that. So thank you so much for touching on that, because I think it's important. Now, I'm going to go back to LJ and David. You know, what does not having a vision mean to you? Because I'm sure at some point in your creative career you felt like you didn't have a vision. Like, what does that mean to you from your perspective?
I think for us a lot, it means being kind of unfocused and shooting like a big mishmash of work, and kind of throwing everything out there and just seeing what sticks. And I think a lot of times you get sucked into like taking jobs you're getting hired for, and not necessarily the work that you really want. And so I think that's part of like what happens when you don't have a vision, and what that means when you're not very focused about who you are as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, do you want to touch on that too? I'd like to hear from everyone on this.
I think a lot of it has to do, like what LJ was saying, you know, a lot of times too, the editing process plays a huge role in not having a vision or having a vision. How we organize ourselves, you know, and what our whole package is. Like Shannon's talking about, you know, the emotional brand and the physical brand, and I'm talking about now, like sometimes a client will send me, you know, 150 images, and we'll look at what was on their website, and then we'll edit it down, and the way that we're transitioning the pictures, or the way we're playing with the color, the contrast, the story, and really having that focus of what we're communicating, and then going back in and editing to make sure that we're, you know, honing in on what that focus is. That can help your vision as well. So sometimes not having a vision is not being a good editor as well.
That's huge. And, you know, Shannon, what does not having a vision mean to, and I'd like to hear from both perspectives, from the art producer's mentality to the rep, what's going to be the effect of not having a vision?
Yeah, I think not having a vision is, you know, not being able to think beyond the box. You know, it goes back to what I said earlier, you know, knowing how to work with a good stylist and talent and, you know, putting all the pieces together. And if you're just stopping at, you know, you think you can shoot something like a beautiful picture, but there's also other components that go with that image. It's not just about shooting a pretty picture because, you know, there's so many components that make up a wonderful, you know, conceptual photo. You want it to communicate a message. You want it to be able to tell a story. And if you can't communicate that just with a vision, with storytelling, I think that's a big part of not having a vision.
And does that mean, I'm just going to ask for it, does that mean you just don't get hired? Like, I'm trying to like look for that one answer.
Yeah, you know what? When she was saying about her you know, the website, because, you know, I'll go look, you know, at the rep site and see the photographer, or I'll, you know, hop over to their site, and it's like, oh, what's happened? You know, the site is bad, and it's like, oh my God, is that how you want people to think of you? You know, it's like it all has to tie together, and you know, because that's what we all look at. You know, and if there's something missing, you know, that falls off, then there's not a consistent vision. So that might communicate to potential clients like, where's this person thinking? Is that how they're going to treat my images? You know, if there's not a consistent flow of vision across all media platforms, then there's something missing.
I totally agree with Shannon. I think that there's a lack of trust, and you know, if you're not communicating or being able to verbally and visually communicate your work clearly and effectively right off the bat, then that's a big part of not having a vision, right? Not having that verbal and visual connection too.
And even for editing, oh sorry, I'm saying like with Jennifer when editing images, it's the same thing. I know not every photographer is the best editor, but to a certain degree you can kind of get a feel of like the images. But if there's like this up and down, that is another sign of their vision is not clear.
Right, because their intentions of how they're going out to edit or what they're selling and who their market is are not established, right? So you want to make sure that all of that connects with your vision too.
Well, Jennifer, you know, let's go to you, because I think this is something that you and I have been having a conversation with, not only between us, but with the peers. I mean, all of the 6 consultants at Agency Access. This has been an identified problem. Like, people, you know, are trying to market themselves and not getting hired, and this is something that, you know, we've kind of identified as a problem, as a gap in the market. And so, you know, like, how are you as a creative consultant helping artists define their vision? Like, what is your role, and like, what do you do to really help? Because I know we've identified it, but can you help creatives understand and artists understand like what you really do?
Well, probably LJ and David can tell you better since we've been working together. But you know, I think what my intentions are, at least, are to go in to really understand. It's not what I want; it's what my clients want. You know, and I really try to help. And I love to use that word extract, because I'm really pulling out from them through different exercises that we do, understanding what their visual language is and what they're attracted to, what their aesthetic is today, okay? And that's a big, important component, the word today. And that today might last 6 months to a year. This might not be their vision for the rest of their lives, but where are you right now, right? And so we do these exercises. I try to learn and help them understand the language, so the verbal communication of what it is that they like, what it is that they're attracted to, right? And then we go back and we look at their work, and we start to look at that and say, okay, well, what do we have that speaks that language? And then it helps us to clearly identify, well, what's missing, and what do we need to fill in the gaps to really be attracting the work that we ultimately really want to be doing. So I help them just through a process of understanding what it is that they want, help them stay on task, work together to identify the gaps, and fill the gaps to attract the market that they want to reach.
I want to be really clear, Jennifer, is vision is about finding what the artist wants and going after the market that way, rather than thinking this is where your work is and this is the market you should go after. Like, I just want to really clearly define a really good edit versus finding your vision.
I agree. That is the answer. It is more about, it's not just this is the work that you have, so this is the work that you can be getting. That's not really what we're talking about. We're thinking a bigger picture. Like LJ said earlier, a lot of times photographers, illustrators, and directors, right? Their reels, their portfolios, their websites sometimes, and that's part of sometimes where the vision gets lost, is that it becomes this conglomeration of the work that you're getting. Okay, because we all need to pay our bills and feed ourselves, so sometimes the work that you're getting might not be the work that ultimately you want to be doing, but it's the work you're getting and paying your bills. So what we do is we craft the work that you want to be getting, not the work that you are getting. Okay, and so we edit for that because we always want to put forth what we want, not just what we have, right? So yeah, there's the differentiation.
Thank you. I wanted everybody to understand that. I know we've had long conversations, but I know everybody listening, I want, and to be clear, this is really for anybody that's listening, somebody that's just got out of college, somebody that's been working for 10 years, somebody that's been working in the industry 30 years. Vision is an ongoing challenge. So what you just spoke, Jennifer, I think is really important message for everybody to hear, and I just wanted to make sure everybody listening got that. LJ and David, let's talk about what made you feel like you had lost your vision.
I don't think it was so much that we lost our vision, is that we were transitioning from careers in television and working with cinematographers, and we needed to identify our vision and our brand together as a team and as fluid. So we were kind of still stuck in this, what we had done before and us individually, and we really needed to come together and figure out how are we promoting ourselves as this team. And Jennifer was really helpful in us moving forward with that.
You guys had two visions and you wanted to make a singular vision.
Yeah.
Bringing it together.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of clients will ask for all kinds of things from us, and we're very malleable and able to do that. But what Jennifer's helped us do is almost see into all of our body of work and what we really enjoy doing. And that really is the wellness and the lifestyle. We really gravitated towards that realness. And she's helped us see that and gravitate towards that and seeing our body of work and look at our body of work in a new way that allowed us to re-envision ourselves and be excited about it, in a new way, for sure.
And when you guys feel excited about your vision, do you guys feel like it's changed the way people look at you? It's changed the way you look at yourself?
I think it makes it.
It seems clearer about who we are now because we both had full on our own careers in television and photography, and we're bringing that together. And I think the two of us working together and getting off the phone with Jennifer, I mean, we are excited. We get off the phone and we're like, oh, this is what she saw and this is how she's organizing these things. And here we really do enjoy these kinds of shoots more than these kinds of shoots, even though we will take the work that comes our way, like Jennifer was saying. We are now focused on doing something. I think we can present that to clients that are in our category more and go down that path more and enjoy our work more.
Yeah, I feel like we've been able to better articulate the work that we really want, and our website and our branding materials reflect that more clearly.
The word we use and that what we've always said is you're trying to visually communicate who you are, and that's the challenge, right? So, Shannon, I'm going to go back to you in terms of artists that from your many years' experience of hiring and now representing, photographers, directors, even illustrators, who stands out to you as having that solid vision, a strong vision that people, when they're listening to this, go, oh, I get it. Who are some artists that actually stand out for you over the years?
Oh, I'm probably a classic person. I always bring up Rodney Smith, Lauren Greenfield, Martin Shore. Those are people you're like, oh, you can just go through a magazine and you're like, oh, that's Martin's work, or you can quickly identify with who's that person's work. And especially, it was easier for me just because I had such a passion for it. I've been doing photography since I was a kid. So I have that natural, just I can identify I'm a walking library. But for the normal everyday person, it is to be quick to identify, and that's if you look at my roster, you can clearly see that there is not that crossover because I'm trying to get to the point where people look at our artists and know that's Dave, that's Cody, that's Matt. Just quickly identify with who that is, and yeah. as I said, Lauren, Martin Schiller, those people are, have always stood out, and they still stand out. So
I think we can hang up now, and you just said it all. No, just kidding. But I think that's it. It's like the people that you walk by and go, that's so-and-so's work. And that's what we're trying to get all artists to do, is be recognized. Whether you're in a small market, you don't have to be this huge market. We want you to be recognized in your market, whether it's an international market, whether it's a national market, whether it's a regional market. Whatever your market is, we want you to be recognized by your vision. I mean, that's why we're all here today. So, Jennifer, when you're working with multiple areas of focus, so I'm going to jump around from that regional market. So we have a lot of guys that the word used to be generalists. Maybe some people use other terms. But like, say, for example, you're working with an artist that has still life, food, even lifestyle. Like, how do you get them to have, a multitude of work? Because in regional market, let's be honest, sometimes you have to be able to cover those 3 different genres. How do you get them to have that common thread of vision and still be seen with vision, but still show, 3 different genres?
Sure, I think it's a good question, and a question actually I think I'm addressed a lot from a lot of people. And the main thing is as long as the areas of focus kind of live within the same space, okay? So like food with interiors, with portraits, you could see a photographer shooting all those types of things in still life, right? But if you were going to tell me food, fashion, and automotive, then we're kind of going a little bit extreme with, the world of focus. But let's just say a photographer is shooting food, interiors, and portraits, right? And wants to show kind of all those areas. The main thing is just having the same visual attributes that are coming into the images no matter what they are. Okay, so if your work is very feminine and soft and you're using a lot of shallow depths of field and you work a lot with a desaturated color palette and you have a lot of lens flare and you have, if you're using those same attributes the way you shoot a food shot to the same way you shoot a portrait to the same way that you shoot an interior, then you're starting to really work as a vision as a whole. If your interiors are extremely saturated in color palettes and super contrasty with hard light, your portraits are completely desaturated and have tons of post-production, and your food shots are really bright and white, it's going to be really hard to show that cohesiveness as a vision, okay? So the same visual attributes have to be communicated in the multiple sectors of focus. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I want to jump back to LJ and David because I think you guys have gone through the process of trying to find your vision, and, how has this process helped you define really who you are? So you kind of just skirted on the topic of, we felt good, we could see we didn't like this, we like that, but like really tangibly, like what was it that this process helped you define or find or?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that came up was, you even mentioned it, that photographers sometimes aren't great, organizers of their work. We'd look at our work as individual shots and what we liked or how the photo shoot went or how the video shoot went. We would pick them. And Jennifer really put new eyes on our work and shed new light and focus on our work and how it's organized. And like she was just saying, we do have work from all over the place, but she has found a cohesiveness that we didn't have before, and watching her go through that process. It wasn't just that she found it, she brought us through that process, which is going to live after we're done with this process, because we're going to be able to go through those next photo shoots and then add that to what we've already done and combine that and continue that focus along the path. So I think Jennifer has really shown us a way of working our color palette out, working out the way that our next photo shoot will fit in with our current work, because you're constantly evolving as cinematographers and photographers. So she's allowed and shown us a way of evolving our vision, but staying within a focus for our clients. So we'll continue.
And this wasn't on the questions that I sent you, but was there any moment where you're like, okay, I can clearly see, like, I shot this and it didn't work? Did you ever have moments, or, oh my God, I thought we loved that, but now it doesn't work?
Yeah,
sure.
Like, as we doing the image edit. We sent her so many photos, and she went through and like recategorized everything, and then reordered everything, and we watched her do that, and that was really interesting to see like how she would lay out the transitions and the colors and like what would come next. And it, you know, we kind of had approached it from like, these are our favorite photos, these should be the first thing you see on the website, and half of those photos aren't even
They're not
on
even
our
on the
website
site anymore.
Right, they're just gone.
Yep.
They didn't really fit into the overall vision. I think she was really able to see our work as like the whole body of work, and not as like these individual images that we have all this emotional attachment to different things for different reasons. And so that was helpful, like just having more of like a neutral perspective, someone who doesn't have any attachment to it, look at it more clearly as a whole. I think we just need to step back from it, and having someone like Jennifer help us was really made us able to step back from it a little more.
But the big thing for me is going forward is that watching that process, we've gained from that. We have a new process of looking at that. Not that we shouldn't step back once in a while, have people look at our work, of course, but we have gained from Jennifer in that way. We allow us to almost step back from our work and look at it in a new light and focus our vision. So
isn't that the goal, Jennifer?
I just want to say, yeah, it's awesome. It sounds like I'm having a sales pitch here, but I know that's not the intention at all. But the point here is really, to me, as watching David and LJ too, I share my screen, right, with everything that we do. And what's been kind of fun is now David especially, I think he's really gotten amazingly good at this stuff, is he can almost anticipate where I'm going to put the pictures into the flow because of the color or the light or the subject, And so, like you said, it's a way of training yourself to look at your work, know first, what's that intention? What's that positioning statement? What am I going after? What are those brand attributes? And how does that work together? And how is it connecting to the other pictures? And sometimes when we talk about this, it's kind of, how does it feel? Like it becomes this very kind of oovy-groovy kind of thing, but you really have to look into it and really look at that. Look at the light, look at the contrast, look at the subject, and those transitions make your work look cohesive. And then it comes back to the core of, what is it that you're trying to do? Who is it that you're trying to communicate to? Right? So you never want to lose touch of your positioning statement of who you are, what you're doing, who your audience is, your emotional brand and your physical brand, and those brand attributes. And David, LJ, and I worked really hard on understanding what their emotional brand is. And I'm sure you can tell, like right away. They're super easy to talk to and warm and friendly and approachable people who love the outdoors, who, are just really fun, open-minded people, like to work with real people, but yet have a style. I mean, you just look at David, he's got a style, right? So these types of emotional brand attributes, they're really fun together, they engage really well, they communicate really well. This is their emotional brand. And then when you go and you look at their photography is a lot of outdoor stuff. It's a lot of things that might relate to surfing and real people and brands that really want to get to the root of what living the life of this brand is. So their emotional brand and their physical brand totally connect. And if it doesn't connect, that work and that vision is not going to live on, guys. So the most important thing is that you realize who you are and what your work is that you're doing, and that those two worlds stay connected and stay together. And if it does, then you can market in a more authentic way, you can continue to build your portfolio in a more authentic way, and you can edit your work in a more authentic way, right?
Jennifer, I have a question based on that. So you're talking about extracting, and you guys are praising Jennifer, and this isn't the Jennifer show, but it does sound like it because you are wonderful, Jennifer, and you are such a great editor. But truly, I think one of the things that you're so good at is you use the word extract, and I use that word all the time because I've got it from you. But talk to me about extracting, because it's like Jennifer helped me do this and Jennifer helped me do this, but really ultimately you're letting them guide you with what they want. You're just helping to extract that. Can you expand a little bit upon that? I know that wasn't in our original questions that I sent you, but I think that's important for people to understand, because I think that's the missing element, that you hear about this vision and this esoteric idea of brands and this and that, but like really, like what are you extracting from them when you get to them? Like how are they visually communicating to you even what they want, regardless of what they have?
I'm definitely going to give you a taste of it. And I just wrote a pocket guide, and I wrote a bunch of articles for Resource Magazine, a series of 3 articles on vision, and I also worked on this pocket guide that will get released after this, which will go in a little bit more in depth of all those things. But like you said, it's not my vision. Okay, this has nothing to do with me. What we're doing is we'll go through different tear sheet exercises, or we'll look at pictures, and we'll say out of this imagery in this work, what is it that you like about this? And I'll just ask them to describe to me, what is it that you're liking from these tears or this other photographer that you're seeing? And we'll look at this work, and I just listen, and every now and again I start jotting down a bunch of adjectives and a bunch of words that describe the work that they're liking. And I'll say, okay, well, what about the composition, or what about the color palettes, and we'll start to look at a bunch of different work and pull some common threads that we're seeing in the work that they're liking. Okay, and if the imagery is all over the place, then I'll tell them that, and I'll make them go back and do it again. But the point is that we're just looking at existing images, and we're not saying, I want to be this photographer, or I want to create this exact picture. That's not the intention at all. The intention is to look at other people's work first, to start to see what are those aesthetics, what is it that you're liking, okay? And then we start to figure out what is it that you like. Sometimes we use Pinterest. A lot of people use Pinterest. Just like, if you're renovating your house or your office, you're going to start to pull all the things that you like, all these different visuals, the color palettes, maybe the type of tile that you like, the furniture. This is your vision of the space, right? And then we have to execute it and look back and say, okay, well, what furniture do we have that speaks to this, or what can we repurpose, basically, right? And then we start to build. Okay, well, we don't have this, so we gotta, go buy that. And that's really what it is. It's about just helping somebody to understand what they're attracted to, how to communicate it. I'll help them write it up into a positioning statement, and then from there, get them out there to really recognize, what is it that I have? What is the work that I have that speaks to this? And then what's the realistic thing how can I create work that I want? If you're pulling imagery that are these elaborate fashion shoots, and I use fashion because fashion is so highly produced most of the time. There's like makeup, hair, styling, wardrobe, sometimes these elaborate sets. And if you're pulling imagery that's this, and you don't have the resources or the financial means to execute imagery like that, then that's what Amanda will say, that's your aha moment, because you have to realize that, is this realistic, the work that you really want to be doing and the work that you could potentially execute? So you might have this moment of, okay, I really like this, but you know what, I'm not going to be able to execute this because I don't have the resources or the means to do this. So what's a happy medium? And then you might have to go back to the drawing board at that point. But I always say, ask for the world and you might get a continent.
Well, thank you for just going into a little bit more depth so people can understand. It's not just you pick up the phone and you talk to Jennifer. This is a real extraction of what the creatives and the artists want. And you go through this whole process. You spend so much time and energy, both physically, emotionally, maybe financially, maybe not, depending on your style. And you start marketing yourself, and then you put yourself out in front of an art producer like yourself, Shannon. Can you go and talk to us about, as a former art producer, what was the percentage of these vision-based artists, who was hiring it? Was it more the art director, the creative director, the art producer? Like, tell me, in today's market, who is really finding those vision-based artists and hiring them with the process?
Well, it's touch and go. I mean, that was my job. That's what the art directors, the creatives, they looked to us to find those artists, whether it's a photographer, illustrator, director. It was up to us to, educate them who's who, but it's also a big part of, a lot of them do pay attention to who's out there and who's doing what. So sometimes it was a collaboration between the art producer and the creatives. Every now and then it was the creative saying, hey, how about so-and-so? or, you know, it's touch and go. You know, the younger guys, you know, they're learning. I think it's hard to say. It's really hard because that's, you know, we bring stuff to the table, they bring stuff to the table, and it becomes a collaboration. So I would, like with me being on the other side of the table, I'm really trying to focus in on the art producers and the creatives. So when we do these portfolio reviews, you know, it's not all just about the art producers. It's also about the creatives because it is a collaboration. So I don't know if I want to put a percentage on it per se because they're working together. So if you can, you know, meet with creatives and art producers, I would try to find a fine balance between the two because they do work together.
And while we're talking about finding, what kind of platforms are creatives, art producers, art directors using to find creatives? Because that's the big question. You know, you have a vision and you're going to market it. What are the tools? Because every tool works different for everybody, so we're not going to just say one, but what are different tools that you use?
Well, the way I did it all the time was just making sure you have a good website because that's what people are looking at. You know, an average art director is going to be on a website for 20, 30 seconds. They got a lot of stuff to do. So it's
how are you getting to their website?
Well, through email promos are big. We are completely, totally holding off on resource books. We feel it's a drop in, you know, it's a lot of money and not knowing if people are looking at them. The one that I do hear still consistently today is AdEdge because it's a smaller resource book. They know you have to be invited in. It's, you know, it's just people, it's easy to flip through. I mean, we would have art directors come up to us and be like, hey, can I have a copy of your AdEdge?
So you like small, curated,
small, curated, yeah.
Focused vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's all right there, and it's consistent. You know, the work is consistent in it, and email promos because people are on their computers, and all I have to do is if you get a great image in front of that art director, it's going to cause them to click. And just
email is not dead still. It's probably not.
No, I'm a strong believer. Email, it's there. I mean, we follow the analytics on it, and it is a good. That's why I like email promo because you can instantly see who's opening it. And whereas a resource book, you're like, it's a crapshoot. Sorry to say it like that, but it's a lot of money, and you have no idea if it's going to pay off. You might get that one job, and that's great. I'm not saying that we're never going to do a resource book, but I'm just saying for right now, we're trying the email route.
I hear focus from you. So if it's focused.
And important. You have to do these portfolio reviews. They are so important because you get the FaceTime with someone, that one-on-one FaceTime. That is also what we're doing. I think it's so important because it's like you'll fall in love with that person. It's like, oh my God, I want to get them a job, or you know, it's just you get to know, going back what I said, his personality.
Great. Thank you for giving us a little bit of background. We have 2 questions left. If everybody can hang with us for 2 more questions, and then we actually have some questions. We're going to answer a few questions on the side, and then let everybody wrap up. We try to keep these short and sweet so everybody can get a taste of it, and hopefully get out on their own and start creating some vision. So Jennifer, one of the last questions is for you. What's one of your biggest obstacles you found in working with artists through this process and with helping them define their vision? Like, what is that obstacle that everyone listening to is going to be like, oh, that's me? You know, like, what is that challenge?
Well, I think we actually already really talked about them. One is clients that want to shoot multiple markets and not knowing how to address that and create the common threads, right, and the awareness of it. And 2 really is editing, you know, guys, like, and I'm going to skip to that next question too because that's my biggest piece of advice to you guys, which is really look at your editing. Look and first start with these 3 steps. If you start with these 3 steps, 1, establish what it is that you like, okay? Who are you? What are you connecting with today? And you can do this every 6 months to a year. There's different trends all the time. I can see in my house. I painted my back wall gray last last year, right? Gray is like such a hot color. But probably in like 2 years, this gray is going to look really dated, and I'll be painting it another color. So it's okay. We get influenced by trends and things like that that happen in our lives. So you can do this every 6 months to a year. So number one, start with looking at what it is that you're attracted to. Okay? And look at that, write down those adjectives and those things that you're getting out of that. That's the first step. Okay? The second thing is look at your own work and start to edit it and look and see what's speaking that language of what I'm attracted to. Okay? And then the third thing is start to fill in the gaps of what you're missing. And now all of this has to relate to a market that you want to be communicating to. A market. You don't want to necessarily market, okay, to multiple markets up front, because then you're going to spread yourself so thin. You have to do multiple marketing touch points in order to really make and establish and know who you are. So, you know, you might, like I said before, a fashion, automotive, and food photographer is probably, those are 3 separate markets. So clients will come to me, and one of the biggest obstacles is they'll say, I want to be a fashion, automotive, and food photographer. And I'll say, okay, well, those are 3 separate markets. So right now we have to pick one market that we're focusing on. Okay? And like with LJ and David, we have kind of 2 markets. We have kind of the whole health and wellness market, which, you know, works very well, and we also have this lifestyle market. But lifestyle and health and wellness really possess a lot of the same brand attributes, right? So think about your market, think about what you're doing, look at your work, think about your editing process, and those would be the starting points for me.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. Those, I mean, let's talk about that. So that's Jennifer's tips. I hope everybody wrote down 1, 2, and 3. It's such great advice. But LJ and David, what's your advice coming from peer to peer? What would you give your peers, their advice to support them in finding their vision?
I would say ask somebody else to look at your work. Sometimes you need to step back from it and have more of a neutral perspective and have someone look at it. And I think either print out all your photos so you can physically move them around, or work in a program where you can rearrange and play with ordering them in different ways, because I think that can have a big impact on how it's presented.
Emotionally, I'm going to push you a little bit further. Emotionally, how would you tell your peers to you haven't really thought this one through, so I'm putting you on the spot. How, like, emotionally, like, where are you guys at when you guys start this process? Like, what would you tell them when you're trying to find your vision, like where to, you know, emotionally, you know, maybe expect themselves to find themselves? Is it a roller coaster? Is it low? Is it you start high and you start then end up low?
I think it's really exciting because, like, for us, we had a good idea of what we wanted, and it was exciting to see that become more real. And so I think maybe after the first image edit, we were kind of like, you get like a little lower because you feel like, oh, well, maybe we're missing some things. You see all the holes, but then it's really exciting as you see it all come together, and as you're able to shoot for and fill in, and then start to arrange it all in a way that you see it come to life, and that's really exciting.
But Jennifer cut you off at the knees, and then you guys realized, like, okay, you got to slowly build back up. You're making it sound like it's all like butterflies and rainbows, but in reality, it sounds like you kind of had, like, you know, like a little bit of a reality check. Like, she doesn't love all my images. Okay, we have lots of gaps to fill. So it did sound like a little bit of a roller coaster. So I just wanted to make sure that your peers are like, what am I, you know, like, what am I in for? Whether you do it on your own, you get help. It does have that, you know, up and down, but you're shooting for, you know, to hit that plateau. So
this is Shannon. I have to add to that, just, you know, when you are meeting with someone, if you do have someone edit your work, you have to have thick skin. You know, don't be ready, you know, to hear what they have to offer. Because, you know, I've worked with someone before, and I was like, okay, you can just extract, you guys were rubbing off, all this work, and here it was like this little pile of just, you know, a few images. I'm like, this stuff is beautiful. You know, can you compare the two? You know, can you really stand your ground with this work compared to this work? And it was, you know, it was really hard for this person, but now this was like maybe 10 years ago, and now where I see he's at now, and he is taking the advice, and he is, you know, he's doing great. So just be prepared to take such feedback, when you're meeting with an editor or someone to help you with your work, because it's not always what you want to hear. But, be ready to grow and evolve.
Great, that's great advice. Any other advice, Shannon, before we start to ask some other questions from the audience listening now?
No, as Eldrin said, I have to agree, photographers or artists are not always the best editors because they're so close to their work. Even my partner, she's married to one of the photographers, and it's like, okay, you guys are too close. And so they have me work on his work because they're they're literally married to it. So it is step away, to get someone to step away from it and look at it.
That's great. Well, you guys are an amazing group, and let's tackle some of these questions here. I'm going to take about 5 questions. If everybody's still good on time, we'll sit through it. So let's start with one. I've been told by an agent it's more about who you shoot than how you shoot. And I'm going to direct that towards Shannon. Can you answer that? It's more about who you shoot than how you shoot, which kind of contradicts what you said. So can you touch on that?
Well, I've seen that too from other people, like in whatever I read or interviews, and it's tough, because a lot of it is who you shoot for and how you shoot, because they do look at your client list, and if you don't have certain names on your client list, or you don't have much of a client list, it is a risk for that new potential client, to take. So, even what you could do is also, when you do your personal work, do some brands like that. Throw in those big brand names just to show those clients, potential brands or clients, they can see their work in your style. But I think it's a little bit of both, unfortunately. But I think the work has to be there. And unfortunately, yes, creatives and art producers, some of them, they want to see who the clients are.
And you know what a perfect example is? I don't know if you guys follow Jesse Dittmar. I think he's with Held & Associates, but just watching his career completely take off. He has so established his vision and his photographic of his portrait style, and now he's shooting every celebrity. He has a book out. He's amazing, but his vision was so strong to start with. He's young and up-and-comer, but he's shot every celebrity, politician out there now because his vision was so strong. I'm going to direct this next question to you, Jennifer, because I think it's such a good question. How do you convey your well-rounded skills on a web page or bio?
Okay, I could probably spend an hour just talking about it. All right, let's start with the website real quick. Like Shannon mentioned, really important, and my buddy Alan over at Photo Shelter, I always check in with him to make sure, is this accurate? The average commercial viewer, when I say commercial viewer, I'm talking art producers, art directors, creative directors, photo editors, right? Not your like mom and pop shop or your bride or your, mother, so to speak, because they'll spend a lot longer. But your average commercial viewer only stays into a website for about 5 clicks. And if that's 5 clicks and you want somebody to really see and know who you are on a website quickly, the good news is that, companies like A Photofolio and Verb and Squarespace and Photo Shelter, they're all coming out with these platforms, right, that allow you to see a lot of content quickly. These thumbnail scrolls, allow you to get a real gist of who this person is. Well, the advantage of that is you can see a lot of content quickly in a small space on 1 click, right, in a little scroll. And the disadvantage of that, and probably even a movement why we talk so much about vision, is if the vision's not there and it's all together in a contact sheet and people are scrolling through it all at once and it looks bouncy all over the place, then there's a problem. So you need to really, the platforms are helping you to show your vision quickly, but it becomes even a stronger area of editing. So that addresses the website edit component. And what was the second part?
Also on the bio page, how do you connect the dots?
So the bio page, I like to talk about the bio page actually, because I think that Alan also over at Photo Shelter shared this with me, and also if you look at your Google Analytics, I believe that you'll see this as well, is that the users generally will go to your first category, on your website, and then they'll click over to the bio page. Okay, so that's usually about the second click. And so if I'm on this bio page, and people in our business don't really like to read, and it's this big, long paragraph of text, a lot of times that turns people off, right? So if there's big paragraphs of text, break it up with italicized words, use some bold print in there. Make sure that your bio page is an area and a platform for you to communicate your emotional brand. So sometimes people are doing more videos on it. Just really have personality. I had to just write a new bio, and I was cracking up when I wrote it because it challenged me to talk in a way that I don't normally talk about myself. But it is a lot more fun to read. Make sure you're showing the whole self. Like Shannon was saying, you know, actually Shannon and I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago about one of her talent who happens to be a client of mine and I've known for a long time, and we were talking about like, well, what was the above and beyond? Like, so we're going to send in our books, or we're going to show our book at a portfolio review. But when the creative asks and wants to know what that above and beyond is of that person, it's either doing creative treatments, but it's also who you are and what you bring to the table. And so this particular talent we were talking about, you know, she has this vivacious energy that is so contagious and so amazing. When she walks into a room and when she engages with the client, she's fun and playful, and she gets people to laugh, and she always delivers above and beyond, not just with the experience of what it's like to shoot with her, but also the content. You know, she goes above and beyond her shot list. She shoots really fast. All of this is really important for a client to know. They need to know that working with you is, if that's who you are, is fun and funny, and that you love food and you have the best food on your productions, and you know, you're going to give them all these things. So your bio page is a space and a platform to be able to really showcase your emotional brand, who you are, and what you're like. And that's a very big differentiator or additional helper to the actual work that you're selling, because you're selling yourself as well.
Okay. I have one last question. It's going to end up going back to you, Jennifer, because I think we're going to close on one important question. And this is one that I think I've spoken to with Selena Maitreya a lot, and I think you can really touch on this. The question is, in order to not lose any current work from different categories, so like say we're talking about generalists and you're saying you shoot 3 different categories, do you recommend setting up a separate website so you seem more focused? So as this person is going through this process, you know, they're afraid of losing, you know, the clients that they have. But Selena and I have talked about, you know, making it a benefit. So can you talk about that, Jennifer, is, you know, how to keep the current clients you have while you're evolving new clients?
Sure. So to me, it's a kind of a time management thing too. You know, I would not give up your current website. I'd just edit it. You know, take into some of the considerations of what's the best work that you have right now. What's the best platform that you can be communicating it? Is it, you know, edited properly? So work with what you have for sure, because it takes this whole thing and whole life thing is a process, right? I'm still in this process of life every day, and so I think it's you're going to maintain, and just as we keep using this word, evolve your existing work for your existing clients. Simultaneously, you're going to start working, and it might take a while, you know, it might take a good 6 months to a year before you even have a space and a platform to launch this other area of work. So you kind of have to have a time management thing and say, okay, this is the work that's coming in, and it happens with photographers too, shooting personal projects all the time, you know, and I love personal projects. Staying connected to the passion of why you're doing what you're doing and what you love to do. So I definitely would not get rid of your existing work. You need to even continue to market to those people. You need to send personalized emails to them. You know, make sure you're staying on the radar to your, what we call bread and butter. And then, you know, have a plan, guys. Have a plan. This is not going to happen unless you carve it out, because our lives are just way too busy, and we're going to just work with the work that we're getting and not necessarily, you know, go after what it is that we really want. So you have to say to yourselves, how bad do I want this? How much time realistically can I allocate to this? And what's my goal? Do I want to try to shoot 1 shoot a month? That's pretty, to me, that's pretty realistic. okay? It gives you 1 week to prep the shoot and do all of your production components, get everything in order. 1 week, in essence, to shoot it, right? Or even 2 weeks for production, give or take. 1 week to shoot it, and then 1 week to edit it and do post. So in essence, it's like a 3-week turnaround. And I think that that's very realistic. So maybe you want to start with something like that, around a 3-week to a month turnaround time, and start to look at your calendars, come up with your concepts, and build accordingly.
Well, you actually answered somebody else's question, which I was going to skip, but I wanted to ask it. How long does it take? So thanks for answering that. The photo gods made you hear it. Well, first, LJ, David, thank you for bringing an authentic voice and just letting people see, you know, like a lot of artists don't always want to put themselves out there to say, we ourselves, you know, took a journey, and I very much appreciate you guys being so raw and real with everybody about the experience, and just letting, you know, artists know that, you know, putting a face to the experience of the journey of being an artist, and it's not, you know, you don't just define it and you're done. Like Jennifer said, I think you said it, David, it's ever evolving. So thank you very much. Jennifer, thank you for your knowledge and your energy and that great analogy of designing a house, because, you know, I think we all totally get it now about editing and how it all comes together. And Shannon, thank you so much for bringing your knowledge, your experience, your passion for this industry and helping artists. You've been so connected to the community for so long. I met you at Portfolio Reviews years ago when you were an art producer, so you've always been so giving back, so I appreciate your time and energy. And thank you, everybody, for listening, and I really hope our intention is that you guys can take the knowledge gleaned from today, whatever bits and pieces you heard, you're only meant to hear what you took, and use that to gain your vision, evolve it, as Jennifer had said, learn how to extract really what you want, and go out there and get the work that you want to get hired for. Not that you're getting hired for it, but the work you want to get hired for. So best of luck to you, and thank you, everyone. We wish you the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.